In this live self-defense training video, we'll talk about the self-defense walking cane. And the question is, can you really defend yourself with a walking cane? I want to talk about basic technique. You see this spinning a lot. And this spinning, teach my students, teach you how to warm up your body, how to get a good feeling for the cane, how to build some callus on your hands, how to get your heart rate up. You can do the standing or sitting. It's a very valuable exercise, but it's sort of like a boxer who jumps rope. You don't use this in the self-defense fight. You're not going to use the spinning. You can, and some people do teach that, but I teach not to spin. So can you use a walking cane for self-defense? Does it really work? I don't think it works as well if you're just spinning it, if that's your focus. If you're trying to spin it to scare somebody off, I don't think that's gonna work. I think a better approach that does work is standing in a strong position, a better position. You put the cane between you and the threat, and then you thrust. So can you really defend yourself with a walking cane? Yes, you can. And the reason we know that this works is because this works with any other baton. If you point the baton at somebody and you thrust it through his midsection, police officers use that all the time. Prison guards use it all the time. They get online, people are rioting, they're rushing at them. They stand, they bend their knees a little bit and then thrust and stick that right in his midsection, knock his wind out, knock him on the ground, or even more fatal, stick it through his throat for self-defense. So yes, can you defend yourself with a walking cane? Depends on the technique. If you're doing the spinning, not as effective. Now the other kind of spinning you're gonna see is when you hold it here, and then you have this figure eight motion. And this figure eight motion will continue to strengthen the forearms. It's gonna get you better mobility in your wrists, in your elbows. It's gonna make you stronger in your shoulders. Your grip is gonna be stronger. When you strike, you're gonna be able to strike harder. Thank you for that, Studer. You vocalize when striking. I yell or I breathe out when I strike. Yes, absolutely. We can talk about why. I talk about that a lot in another series of videos, so if you subscribe, we'll go over that for sure. But if you use this spinning for self-defense, again, I think anytime you spin, it's not as effective. And the reason why spinning isn't effective here is because now it can be timed. He can time you as you're coming out, he can close that distance and you lose your technique. I would rather see you standing your ground in a better position, holding the stick between you and the threat, and when he comes in, slicing through, almost like an eskrima strike or a kali strike from Filipino martial arts, from here, pushing through, coming off that shoulder, striking to the temple, to the jaw. You have to ask yourself, what target can you remove or destroy? That's a principle of self-defense that makes this effective. Technique is not as important as the principles. So using proper technique, striking to the temple, and applying it with that principle of self-defense, what will you remove or destroy? His operating system, his ability to be awake. Take off his most dangerous weapon is his brain, right? His intention to hurt you, his intention to use violence against you. So if you can knock him out, you take that away, you've neutralized any other weapon he might have. So from here to here, that strike from one shoulder, from the other shoulder, maybe going into an arm that's reaching for you. He might have a blade. You're smashing that hand, coming down into the knee. I carry this one in my car. I call this my auto insurance policy. When I get out and pump gas, this is always with me. I'm standing there. This is here. If someone were to rush up against me, I can immediately stick between his legs or smash him up under the chin. I can put it in one hand, immediately stick it into his chest, just like that police baton, and you can defend yourself. But I wanted to show you this as we talk about striking that hand with the knife. This teardrop shape, take off the tip so you can see. On this particular style, these are all self-defense canes, self-defense walking canes. The link is below if you want to see what the dimensions are. But this feature here especially will break and shatter bone. That'll go in and compress that flesh, and that'll smash the bone. That'll break, especially if you go for the joints break easier than the bones in the arm, but you're gonna break the arm. Thank you everybody so much for being here. I appreciate those comments. They're coming in hard and fast. I have a class coming in really soon, so I might skip over the comments for now, but I wanted to show you this particular style of cane. This is the dojo training cane. This is a great everyday practice cane. A lot of people carry this every day because it's a great gray man option. That one looks a little bit more fancy, but you carry this one around, you can immediately defend yourself with it. You can reach out. Can you really defend yourself with a cane? Take this piece right there, stick it in his face, and rip the flesh right off of his face, take the eyeballs out of his head, take the nose off his face, rip the teeth out of his mouth, even more damage through the throat for self-defense. So it is a highly effective self-defense tool when used with those techniques. Using it with a spinning, and I was watching some Hapkido, some of the old Hapkido cane, because that's how I got started. I started in Hapkido cane. I went to some cane fu seminars. I went to some seminars with different instructors over the years at big tournaments or other martial arts events. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Been doing it since I was a kid, really. And so I've been to a lot of seminars. I've seen a lot of things. In the old style, the things that we used to do were very elegant. They were very esoteric. They had a lot of traditional martial arts moves, a lot of joint locks, pressure points, takedowns, a lot of step through, strike him here, kick his leg out from under him, stomp on his head, and it all works really well in the dojo, in the dojang, but it's not as effective on the street. And if you have limited mobility, and I have limited mobility now because my hip hurts, my knee hurts, I've been running all day, I've been running all week, and so you're as you get older, or if you've had some injury or accident, if you've been born with some challenges in your body, you don't have the same mobility, the same ability to be all fancy dancy, running around doing all those extra moves. So if you learn how to just stand your ground, even if you need one cane to stand with, I'm going to show you, bring my cane back. You stand on one, lean on it, and then snatch that other one up, get it into a better position, coming off the shoulder, striking down on top, this powerful strike right through the middle of his body, thinking about striking down here, coming across horizontally. These strikes to the temple, to the arm, to the wrist, to the shoulder, to the ribs, to the lower parts of the body, those are all very effective self-defense techniques. So can you really defend yourself with a walking cane? Yes, if you keep it practical and simple. In my opinion, I think leaning on one and hitting with the other one is very effective for a lot of people. I think if you're confined to a wheelchair, or you happen to be sitting on a park bench or waiting for the bus, or sitting on the bus or on the subway, on a plane, because you can take this with you everywhere you go, which is why I think it's the best self-defense tool in the world. From here, you can sit and do all these techniques from a seated position. You can even do the spins from a seated position as a warm-up. But remember what the spins are really for. Spins, in my opinion, the way I teach it, spinning, and there's a lot of cool things you can do. You can bring it around. You can learn all this stuff, and I don't have all the fancy spins that some people do, because I spin just a little bit of time just as a warm-up. And I, just like when I skip rope, when I teach my boxing and kickboxing self-defense classes here, I have everybody warm up for 10 minutes with a jump rope. And it's hard, it's monotonous, a lot of people don't like it, but yeah, fancy dancy, don't get too fancy dancy. But what it does is it conditions the legs, right? Skipping rope for a fighter conditions the heart and the lungs. But you don't take the jump rope into the fight, into the ring, and smack the other boxer with it. You go in there and you punch, just like hitting, you don't take the bag into the ring, but boxers work the bag, boxers work the speed bag. You don't take that into the ring. So if you think about, can you really defend yourself with your walking cane? The answer is yes, if you understand what the purpose of spinning is, and you keep the spinning in your living room, in your backyard, in the garage, in the virtual dojo, and then out on the street, you take a better position. Put the stick between you and him. Now see how you have this anchored on your hip? This is extremely important. It's the biggest question most people have when they start. What happens when that guy takes that cane from me and beats me to death with it? What do you do then? And that's a really important, valid point. That's a valid question. You need to have an answer for that. And the answer is, if you have it attached to your hip, you have it anchored here, you turn it, and you turn it. And I don't have anybody to show you with today because the classes aren't here yet, but if someone grabs this from the end, what's going to happen is that turns, it's going to compromise the wrist like this. And if you have a partner, you have somebody that can just grab it, do it slowly, but you must anchor it here. Your hands are away from your body and they pull on it, you're going to get into a tug of war. And if they're stronger than you, they're taking it and they're beating you to death with it. Now you don't want that, because the whole purpose of this is self-defense, right? You want to defend yourself. If you anchor it to your body, now all of a sudden, they're pulling against the weight of your body. And I don't care how strong their arms are, when you're anchored, and then you're gonna allow it to go forward. As they pull back, you're gonna use that moment to turn and smash straight down. And you will see they will either let it go because that's a pain compliance point, or it will shatter the wrist. And if they hold it with two hands, the same thing is still going to happen, and it's gonna come down. Once you get that to go down, step through and thrust through his body and knock him straight back. It's that basic motion, pushing in and pushing back. Now, principles of self-defense are situational awareness. Get in a better position. Put the cane between you and the threat. Number 3, ask yourself with a deep breath, take a breath, focus the mind, what can you remove or destroy? His ability to see you or breathe temporarily, permanently. His ability to be awake, to be able to use his brain. Maybe you smash here, you smash here. Maybe it's two hands smashing down. Maybe you turn around and you use it like a rifle butt right into his nose. Reach up and rake. Using violence against violence. That comes from a book. I didn't invent that. The great book, it's called When Violence is the Answer. I put a link below if you want to see that. It's by a guy named Tim Larkin. He's got a channel here. You'll learn so much if you go and follow him. I know some of you already do. But great principles. Learn how to use principles of self-defense with simple techniques. Pin it to your body, step into thrust, bring it to your shoulder, fight from behind it, turn it around when you need to, thrust, hit with that big hook, reach up, snatch him down. But you can do all this in the center line of your body. You don't have to be able to spin around and jump. I almost busted my knee right there. Jump up and down, not a little sprite like I was when I was 6 years old, you know? And you're bouncing around, which is nothing wrong with that if that's your style, if that's your technique. And that might work for a lot of people. When we practice here, and I'm working with you, you can't do that for one. Some of you can't, but most of us can't. And number 2, when you start to do that and we practice trying to take it away from each other, every time when we stress test it, we call it stress testing, where we actually say, is this gonna work or not? Because we're not gonna teach you if it doesn't work. Does this work or not? We put a little bit of padding on, we get some pads on our canes, and then we come in and take a couple shots and whip this out of your hand and smash you with it. We find out that all of the spinning in our stress tests, for us anyway, and I'm not saying that there's not somebody out there that can't use it effectively. I'm just saying it doesn't work for me. It doesn't make sense. I go back to 1989, August 28th, remembering the date. I showed up. It was supposed to be earlier. I had an ear infection, shipped off to Parris Island, Marine Corps boot camp, started that beautiful journey, and then somewhere along the line, they put a bayonet in our hand, and we had to, or a rifle with a bayonet at the end, and we had to learn how to stick it through the middle of somebody. And guess what? We weren't doing anything fancy. We stand your ground and thrust. Wait for him to come to you and thrust. Wait for him to come in and thrust. Every time that they do that, it becomes effective, right? They have to be able to move through that. Now with the rifle, and you'll see the Marine Corps has the best rifle spinning teams or whatever it's called, and you know they can do all that kind of fancy stuff. But on the battlefield, when you run out of bullets and you fix bayonets, none of the rifle guys aren't, you know, spinning their rifles and throwing them up in the air and catching them. They're standing and they're ready, right? And then it's hook and jab, and then it's use that rifle at the end. And then they put the pugil sticks in your hands. It's like looks like a giant Q-tip. And then you wear the football helmet, you got the mouthpiece in, and you just beat each other with it. But again, the effective techniques, lower your guard, your center of gravity, come up, and then when he comes in, thrust. Comes in, thrust. Pull your shoulders, smash him on one side, smash him on that other side, smash him down on top. If you need to, go to a leg, but keep it super simple. And then you'll answer the question yourself. Can you really defend yourself with a self-defense walking cane? 1,000% yes. If you keep it simple, get rid of all the fancy footwork, get rid of all the old style cane fu, Hapkido cane. Nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful martial art. Learn it for the esoteric, the aesthetics, the way it looks and the way it feels, and the spirituality and the philosophy. And then learn how to defend yourself with the principles in Tim Larkin's book from that link below. And give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of stuff. We'll do more of this. And again, thank you, Studer, for that great donation. I'd love to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Last time I think I said Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah if you celebrate Hanukkah. I want to be all-inclusive, but I want to say Merry Christmas because Merry Christmas, that's next week, right? So from here, thrust, from the shoulder, come down, work on your horizontal strikes, your vertical strikes, your two-handed strikes, and then that other side, that rifle butt attack, those strikes, and then the ripping motions. Work on those. Thanks, Studer. Merry Christmas. You guys have been awesome. I'll see you probably tomorrow.